I think, as you probably have realized by now, I'm fascinated by old draft scouting. I think it's so fun, and I think it's like maybe the best way to like improve your process as a scout, at least for me. Um, so taking like an analytical look at why guys failed or didn't fail is awesome. Is so fun, and we're gonna look at Anthony Bennett today, who is like maybe like the most like widely known like worst draft bust in sports. Number one pick in 2013. And he was doing stuff like this in college, where like very like explosive and powerful frame, able to hit these straight line drives as a guy at his size, and was like so overwhelmingly strong at the college level. Was so adept at like using his strength to just like throw defenders around like wet noodles, and very easily score in the paint, kind of whenever he wanted at times. But obviously things didn't work out, and like scouting reports were kind of weird for him. Like I feel like a lot of them kind of were like, yeah, he's like a 6'7" strong dude, not really a defender. Like some weird comps that we'll get into. But there seem to be like two really like giant issues with Bennett. The first one being his passing and his like decision making awareness, feel, whatever you want to call it, like is so critical for NBA success. Like you have to be really amazing at something else to not have that and be a good NBA player. And Bennett just wasn't that. Like assist to turnover ratio certainly isn't a perfect metric for, this like feel, whatever. But if we like go to the guys who have been drafted, in the Bartorvik database that have a lower than 0.5 assist to turnover ratio, it is like just a whole list of kind of busts and guys who didn't really end up amounting to much. Like we have like Derek Williams, who we'll probably do eventually in the series. Obviously, some great NBA players, but like most of them were like real bigs, like Boogie Cousins, Pirtle is like a real big, Andre Drummond is a real big, and like even the ones who like aren't real bigs, like Doug McDermott was like a nuclear shooter. John Collins is a big. So like it's certainly not like a super auspicious sign to have like that low of an ATO, especially when Bennett was like lacking in a lot of other tools and like wasn't a true big. And like this was present even in like the good parts of his like college tape. I mean, he was like a very much like a face up artist maestro guy, but you kind of see like there are four Cal defenders converging here, and Bennett's head down going to the rim, no intention of passing out here, and like there were pretty obvious kind of like kick out windows here. Like even if none of them would like this guy's deep, but like these are like good options here, like resetting the offense and hunting a better shot. And again, Bennett, like even a play like this where he's able to use his strength to score in the post, there's like a pretty like wide open three right here, and as we'll kind of see, this stuff like stops working in the NBA for like a lot of players. Like the like undersized. I mean, at the point of 2013, like the NBA was a lot different, but like the undersized like post was like beginning to phase out, and Bennett just like really struggled in that environment. You see like where he was able to like use his like explosiveness at the college level and his strength to score over defenders that just like didn't work in the league where the defenders were bigger and stronger. And because like Bennett doesn't have the greatest footwork or awareness, like, or his ability to see like the angles that he's at, he wasn't really able to take advantage of the strength and explosion he had. Again, like he was just like totally stonewalled here by Cody Zeller, who was like another guy in his draft. When we like go back and look at this play where he was able to just like make a fool out of this college big, and then we go watch him do like try the same against NBA bigs, and it just does not work. And then as well, here is, I believe this is Derek Williams. We're kind of loading draft busts here. Again, like there are pass out options here. The windows are tighter because it's the league, but this is probably a decent option to reset the offense. There's two, three defenders in the paint, and Bennett is just like totally unable to draw any separation. So feel is not just important for making passes and decisions, but like knowing how to apply your tools. And it clearly seemed like Bennett wasn't very good at that ever in the league. And this, these were from his rookie year, but these trends kind of seem to stick. with Bennett, as he was never able to like, know how to position himself and use the right footwork and craft to really actualize his physical tools. And like the comparisons for him were like weird and not very nice. Like this article compared him to like Brandon Bass, Jason Maxiell, and like Corliss Williamson as like your number one pick. I know that Bennett was like a surprise number one pick, but even as like a guy who was like going in the lottery, like these aren't great comparisons. And even like Brandon Bass was like way more explosive than Bennett. Like Bennett obviously could like get up in space, but you see plays like this where he like has a runway and is like taking steps and can load up and explode. Whereas like Brandon Bass was like super like obviously like a mid-range assassin, and that would have been a pathway for Bennett. But like so explosive, not only like in his first step, but in his ability to like rise up quickly and like dunk over guys in the league. And again, like even in college, you could kind of see on these like post-up attempts like how high he gets. Like he is ball above the rim on this like standstill post-up drive, which is like not something Anthony Bennett is ever doing. And like Jason Maxiell, like again, like both of these guys are like journeyman role players at best. And like Maxiell was just like a poster merchant and made his career on like NBA top 10 highlights. Who was like I fucking loved Jason Maxiell as a kid. He was like an amazing dunker, but like even these like similar players just had like very specialized traits in a way that Bennett didn't. I think there's like honestly a world where Bennett like is able to carve out a role when if the shooting doesn't hit like a 0th percentile outcome. Obviously, like Bennett was never able to do anything as a jump shooter in the league. The free throw was always not very good. Like the three never came around, but like the shot profile wasn't awful. Like this, like the far two is really, really good numbers. I've done videos on this in the past, and these were inflated by like the amount of like short post kind of mids, but still, like, the free throw wasn't awful. The volume wasn't terrible for 2013. So I certainly think there was a world where he became an okay shooter, and maybe in that situation he kind of sticks around and as like a more like perimeter oriented like rebound dunker player. But that clearly never happened, and like the offense was just never able to translate. I'll go back to this scouting report by Mike Prado, which is really like cool and fun to read. He called him the single most unaware defensive prospect he's ever seen, and like that certainly like didn't seem inaccurate. And this brings us to the second like big thing that scouts and people seem to overlook is like just how bad of a defender Bennett actually was, and like how important that is. I feel like even now, like we're maybe not valuing defense as much as we need to, but especially probably 10 years ago, we're like a routine play for Bennett. Like he's just the kind of defender who just stands around straight, not moving his body at all, just watching the plays happen. And it's not like Bennett was like a really active defender anyway. Like again, he kind of like postures this rotation. This is like a pretty clear like low man situation where he has kind of a 2v1, and his job is to help hard and stop this from being an easy shot. And of course, he just kind of stays where he is, and he's lucky this big man misses like a wide open bank shot. And even when Bennett is like kind of playing defense, you can just kind of see like how clunky he looks moving around the floor. Like his reaction time is very slow. He just like his tools are much more oriented for like offense, where he's able to use his power and his speed like in big spaces to load up, where defense is a lot more about small space quickness and change of direction, where Bennett is someone who like struggled quite a bit, just like very unable to like change directions quickly and react to where he needed to go. And he wasn't able to use his pretty impressive vertical explosion when he had time, because often he didn't have time to load up and time a block. It was just like not a very good experience. Even like a play here, you can see him like hard kind of like hedging the screen where maybe he didn't need to, because this defender's trailing over pretty well. He's just like too slow and clunky to get back to his man. You can see him like take lumbering steps, and when he doesn't have like a closeout to attack and like a whole baseline to run along, he isn't able to jump as high and get as high as fast. One of the comparisons I found like really hilarious, was like the Paul Millsap one, as like Paul Millsap as a low, like a low end, a low end comp. And I feel like even in 2013, like Millsap was like an all-star level player and like probably underappreciated. But I'm gonna have like more on Millsap soon actually. But like he was like an unbelievable defender in college. Just like the movement skill, like the quick vertical explosion. Like look at this explosion off of a back pedal. And like I said, I'm gonna go more into Millsap um, in a video soon. But yeah, like feel and defense are two very important things that it seems like the scouts that took Bennett number one, or a lot of people may have missed. And like it's unfortunate because like Bennett is definitely someone looking back who like definitely seemed like a bust, someone who unlike Millsap, who maybe was a similar offensive player in college in terms of usage, just wasn't able to translate to a more perimeter oriented NBA where his skill set kind of phased and died out. And probably another example of overrating like the specific athletic tools that he possessed. But I hope this was fun. I enjoyed this little look back.